Okay, it's time for another Scouching's Calder ballot. Everybody seems to love these, and it's the end of another month here in 2025. So let's take a look at this wonderful NHL rookie class and file a ballot for this month of February. And the first name on our ballot is maybe going to be a bit of a surprise to people, and it really pains me not to throw my boy Logan Stankoven on this ballot. But this is a player who has been absolutely on fire through the last month and a half or so. He's all the way up on the first line on the team that he's on, and he's been there for quite a while. He's been the second most productive rookie since the new year, and that is Detroit's Marco Kasper. Kasper's a player I've liked for years. I've always felt he may have been drafted a little bit high, but I feel like he's a player that maybe as a winger complements some extremely talented players really well with just a very well-rounded, all-around, balanced, physical, skilled, offensive game that definitely could help pretty much anybody with a lot of different areas of the game. In Detroit, he's now playing with Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond, and he is complementing those players quite well and has had an absolute explosion of production since jumping into that spot. Yes, you could make the argument that obviously playing with players of that caliber are going to inflate your point totals, but I'm not totally convinced that he doesn't belong with players like that. Frankly, I'm surprised it's this early, but as a really nice complementary all-around option to balance out those more offensive, speedy, fun, skilled guys, I feel like he's fit in really, really well there. So if Detroit has a really nice option for a first-line winger for the time being in Marco Kasper, I think he deserves a look on this ballot. He's a bit of a late riser, but we'll see where the rest of the season goes from here. He's been quite good, and I'm excited to see what happens for the rest of the season. Up next, we're going to have Calgary's Dustin Wolf. Now, this one is really, really close to number 3 for me. Wolf is a player that I could easily see on a finalist ballot this season. He has been a huge part of why the Calgary Flames have been so successful this year. Since January 1st, he's still got an extremely strong .911 save percentage, which puts him second amongst rookies with Leevi Merilainen in a smaller sample, but performing much better. Do I think that that means Dustin Wolf doesn't deserve a spot on this ballot anymore? Absolutely not. Calgary has been a little bit, not as good since January 1st, but they are still doing much better this season than people gave them credit for. So with Dustin Wolf, he's saving a lot of pucks he probably shouldn't be. He's been a huge net positive for the Calgary Flames, and for a goaltender to do that with a team that had expectations like this and to still be doing it in February is really, really impressive. So I think he at least deserves a look to potentially be a finalist on this. And I really do believe that he is going to have a really strong remainder of the season if his play up to this point has been any indication of what's to come. And at number 3, we're going to throw Philadelphia's Matvei Michkov. Now, there has been a little bit of turbulence here and there with the coaching staff in Philadelphia for Michkov, but through it all, he has been quite productive. Granted, since the new year, he has been less productive and things have maybe not been quite so much in the honeymoon period, but the numbers still show a player who is driving really, really good overall results, especially offensively. I still believe that there's a player here who really needs to work on shot selection. He's taking some shots from places you probably aren't going to score from if you're a scoring forward, but he fits in decently well on Philadelphia's power play as it is right now. He has been in a bit of a line blender after being taken off of a line earlier that was a little bit more stable and might be more up his alley with regards to offense in Morgan Frost and Owen Tippett, but now Morgan Frost has been traded. And Scott Laughton and Sean Couturier feel like maybe not the best matchup for a guy like Michkov to be playing with, but at the end of the day, he's still having a very good season. He has dropped out of my expectation of being a guy that could win this trophy, but I do believe he's a very strong contender to be the third finalist on this ballot. And I do think that this is just a really, really strong class of rookies this year, and Michkov being number 3 amongst all of these players, it's a huge accomplishment in my view. I think him and Wolf are kind of really, really close together here, but through a bit of turbulence this year, Michkov has still remained a really, really positive player for the Flyers this year and a really, really bright beacon for what's coming in the future for them. I hemmed and hawed about this one for a long time at 1 and 2, and frankly, I just don't care who wins between these two players. At number 2, I'm going to put Lane Hudson of the Montreal Canadiens. Now, Hudson, I mean, you cannot argue with the fun factor and the skill level and everything he's brought to Montreal this season, a team that kind of needs a positive story, and Hudson, to say the least, has been that. He's been playing with Michael Matheson a lot this season, and I think overall he has shown really, really, really well, especially offensively. He is already cementing himself as one of the elite offensive defensemen in this league, and I do believe that he has the style of play and raw talent to continue doing so into the future, especially with some development from here, considering how young he is. He's been a massive benefit on the power play for Montreal relative to when he's not on the ice for the power play. He's been a massive even strength offensive contributor as well. At 5-on-5 defensively, yes, you absolutely can paint a picture that he's not awesome there, but it's also not as bad as some other people probably advertise. Sure, there are some moments where he definitely sticks out as a small defenseman, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it comes out in the wash, and for a player to be on the top pair on a team like Montreal at this age with that size and that style of play is a remarkable achievement. And for me, I might wake up tomorrow and he's number one again on my list. I might wake up 2 days later and this next player is on my list at number one. Honestly, and I mean this in the truest fashion, I don't care between the two of these players who wins. I think they both, to this point in the season, deserve it. One for one set of reasons, and this next guy for a completely different set of reasons, which we'll get into now. So you can probably guess at this point that number one on my list is going to be Macklin Celebrini. I just cannot stop watching this guy. Whenever I am tuning in to the NHL before I go to bed late at night, I would love to see a San Jose Sharks game just to see what these young guys are up to. Eklund and Smith and, of course, Celebrini. Now, Celebrini is a player who is playing basically number one center minutes and has been doing so pretty much every single game he's played this year. Yes, the San Jose Sharks are the worst team in the league, but being number one center in the NHL for any team is really, really difficult. And when you look at the numbers underlying under his game, he's still very much a net positive contributor at both ends of the ice for the San Jose Sharks, which, from my experience watching him over the last few years, is to be expected. He's a super, super smart and cerebral player that just clogs the middle of the ice and moves the puck really well, finds creative ways to create offense, which are just, you don't see them coming. And that's a trait that is pretty rare. So for me with Celebrini, it's just a matter of the potential in his game being so high considering what he's doing at 18, but also considering what he's doing at 18 years old. This is a guy who really has been a positive on a power play that has not been particularly good without him on the ice. And this is a player who has cemented himself in the role that he's in. And as this team improves around him over the next few years, I could very easily see a guy like Celebrini being one of the premier centers in the game, especially when you factor in how he plays all around the ice with how smart, skilled, and creative he can be. He has consistently been scoring throughout the entire season. He has been consistently playing a ton of minutes. He's been through a bit of a lineup blender, but he seems to have found a nice mix with guys like William Eklund and Tyler Toffoli lately, which to me sound like two really, really good fits for him style-wise, and it seems to be working pretty well for Celebrini. So for me, considering what he's doing in arguably the most difficult job in the National Hockey League as a number one center, he's been doing an extremely good job. And so again, between him and Hudson, I do not care. Those two players have had Calder Trophy level winning seasons for different reasons. Hudson for that offensive defenseman style of play that catalyzes a power play, catalyzes your 5-on-5 offense, and quarterbacks play from the back end like many modern defensemen need to do. Macklin Celebrini, the 200-foot responsibility, the offensive generation on a team that's in the basement of the league, the overall results moving in the positive direction at both ends of the ice with some usefulness at all situations, except maybe on the penalty kill at this point. I just can't really poke any holes in Macklin Celebrini's game, which to me gives him the slight edge over a guy like Hudson. But if Hudson ends up winning, I am not surprised and I'm not going to be disappointed whatsoever. This has been a fantastic class of rookies in the NHL this season, and it's been an absolute joy to watch when I get the chance. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. We'll see you next month for another Calder Trophy ballot. If you liked this, definitely like and subscribe to the channel. If you really liked it, you can go to Scouching.ca. Give us a subscription over there where you'll get access to all kinds of perks like a Discord server, as well as data tables for drafted and undrafted prospects. If you want to get an edge on the 2025 draft, look no further than Scouching.ca. Or if your team just has a bunch of prospects that you want to keep track of, that's where you can do it. So check it out over at Scouching.ca. We've got tiers for every budget. That's going to be it today. We'll see you next month for another Calder Trophy ballot. And what a year it's been.